Recordings in now. All right. Hello, everybody. This January 11th, 2025, the first second Saturday Salon, Columbus Free Press Salon in 2025. Welcome to everybody, and hope your 25 is going to look good. We have a discussion tonight on housing first, how to use this subject not only as a topic of discussion, but one that is paramount to the movement of how is housing and healthcare and other rights that are guaranteed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that just was in December 10th honored in Columbus, Ohio. And we have guests tonight that are in the middle of all that. So we're wanting to invite Kate Curry-Da-Souza, who is a former Near East Area Commissioner and now is in the process of trying to see if she can get into District 7. And I'll let her introduce herself a little bit more in a little bit. But again, today is January 11th, 2025. And so the Columbus Free Press is a group, a collection of journalists. We call ourselves contemporary journalists investigating the current and historic issues that are very important to the humans and planet and people of the Central Ohio. So here we go. So today, welcome again, and thanks again for coming on. And Kate's going to talk to us first, and then we'll have a few other folks come on and talk about the perplexities of what it does mean to be housing advocates. What does it mean to be a person in a community that is pushing people to the peripheries as much as they can? They're wiping camps out as they are doing across the country. Columbus is not unusual on that. But we're in the recollection of people that are now homeless as due to a fire. And does that change the subject? Does that indicate a different policy need? So we need to start looking at, it's not just the poor. Let's not just think about the poor always. But yes, we always need to have the poor in our mind as well. But housing is a right. We as human beings, we need to understand that and really activate ourselves as a community to cover issues. As writers, as journalists, we need to cover these issues and really start understanding, connecting with people that are actually making policies and try to push forward on that. So Kate, thanks again for coming on. I've known you for a few years, and your work has always been good. And thanks again. And you are muted, but go ahead and get your thing going. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening. My name is Kate Curry-Da-Souza. Thank you again for letting me come here to talk. Yes, I have known Mark for quite a long time, going back to well, we don't have to name a year, but it was probably about 2003. And so I was looking for a ride to the Ohio Union, and the COTA buses weren't running yet. So he got me to the bus so we could go to DC, and kind of the rest is history from then. Working on housing through the lens of the commission is layered, because you're tasked with trying to ensure that community members are having their voices heard. This is the most grassroots effort of our government. Because the commissions are limited to being a recommendation body, I have found that frustrating because it is difficult to sort of limit where things go. There are other cities that have different models for commissions where they have a little bit more power than what we currently have in Columbus. But at the minimum, at least it gives an opportunity for many, but not all, because we recognize that although there are 21 commissions, not every individual is in an area that is represented by a commission. And so here on the Near East Side, we do have a commission. It's longstanding. It's existed since 1979. And so in those 45 years, it's had different levels of engagement with commissioner or, between commissioners and the community. But I think that it's interesting to talk about the fires and to think about the perspective of, need for housing, right? Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a home, does that make you less deserving of it because you didn't lose your home because of a fire, because of poverty? Many times, even with Latitude 525, that was an evacuation, not an eviction. But many times the news got that wrong, right? And so because there were low income individuals living in that building, it was posed as somehow it was their fault, that there was a fault attributed to that loss of housing. Well, the fault lay with the people who had set that up, right? Years of not taking care of the building, of delayed maintenance, of just passing the buck, forever. The elevators not working and people not being able to utilize the space that they had. And in parallel with that is the fear that if they complained that they would lose their housing, which we often see happen with public housing. Individuals are fearful that if they complain that they'll lose their voucher, they'll lose their Section 8, or they'll lose their space. And so we have to be able to untangle these perspectives of who is deserving of housing, right? Housing first means everybody deserves a house, right? In the way that we believe that everybody deserves to eat, in the way that we believe that everybody deserves access to healthcare, because those are basic human rights. I think that when we get into this fight over who should have it, we won't win that battle, right? And so we really have to reframe our view of this, and we have to push our politicians who are running things and the corporations who are behind all of that to be part of this proactive space to ensure that people have housing, because it affects families, it affects people being able to work, it affects their daily lives. And so from that perspective, it's really important to ensure that people have housing to start. As Ben will probably talk about, Camp Shameless started on the Near East Side. And so we have some experience with this friction between individuals who are trying to seek a space for their community, and then the corporations or, large entities who are posing as corporations, hospitals, or whatever other function you wish to call them, in that friction. So I think that we have to find those spaces where we can have the dialogue, but the dialogue has to move to action very quickly. So I'm not sure if you had a follow-up question, Mark.
No, that's good. Thank you. And Ben did show us show up as well, so he'll be talking a little bit. But thanks, Kate, on the opening salvo that housing first is very important to District 7, and I know you are in the process of applying for an open seat at City Council. Is that going to be your house coming up?
Well, that's my hope, that the community's desire for representation will be honored. But, it's an appointment, and I think that we've had a struggle with appointments in the past. Many of us worked on the process of trying to get more of a ward-based system, much like what Minneapolis has, where you live is who votes for you. And that, I think that there was frankly some fear from the powers that be, which is why it went on an August ballot and didn't get a lot of traction. And what we got was a very watered down version where you have a district where the individual still needs to live there, and they have a boundary, but it's an at-large vote. So instead of it being something where you're trying to reach, I'm sorry, my dog is in the background, where you're trying to reach 100,000 individuals who may be in your neighborhood and a little bit larger lens than that, now you're trying to reach 900,000 people. And we all know that the cost for that is exponentially larger, which makes that completely inequitable. So, we have to really hold ourselves accountable to try to have a better process for this, I think, moving forward. But I'm in the middle of it right now, so we're just trying to follow the process.
Thank you. Yeah, and congratulations on that opportunity. I know it's exciting, but also frustrating. As you mentioned, the Near East has been a very central part of much of the housing struggle that's going on. as well as the South Side here to serve. We've had Emily on in the past to talk about their struggles on the South Side. And Ben has been helping out. Ben Colburn has been helping out with Camp Shameless and a bunch of other folks in the past, and is now with Maryhaven Engagement Center and some other folks that are working on the right to, when no housing is available, the right to have camps. I mean, if the system is not set up to provide what is needed, then we need to have other ways that people can live in community and be safe. So Ben, I don't know if you're ready to go, but and I'll let you head on. I know you just had a long day of work, and I was with you this morning. So thanks, Ben.
Yeah, of course. It's been a long day, but fortunately, I get the rest of it off after this. So, yeah, hey everybody. My name is Ben, and uh, just wanted to say I work at the Maryhaven Engagement Center, like Mark said. It's a temporary shelter for people experiencing both homelessness and alcoholism. So basically, they got to blow numbers to get in here. We're so far as I know, about the only shelter in town that will let people in when they are using substances. That's usually a thing that will get you kicked out of shelter. And primarily in my activist work, I work with people, starting with Camp Shameless almost 3 years ago now that the camp started. Work primarily with people that are shelter averse, which means they have other things going on. Shelter system either rejects them or they reject the shelter system, or both, and it usually has something to do with mental health issues, substance use issues, and problems inherent in our shelter system. So even in the middle of winter, you're going to find people out here on the street. And just recently, both City of Columbus has been sweeping camps very aggressively since the Grants Pass Supreme Court decision back over last summer. They did 6 camps in one day back on December 18th. That was real tough, especially for a lot of us. One of those camps was my most long-running camp. I've started 7 total by now. 4 that were like kind of decently long-running. Camp Shameless 1, Camp Shameless 2. Camp Shameless 2 was like very short-lived, but that happened this year. But anyway, I built this camp behind Lucky's Market when I became homeless the second time, and it was myself and a couple other people that were refugees from Camp Shameless. So we ended up making a place up there. Had to abandon it shortly after that. I ended up getting inside. We ended up suggesting, when I was an employee of the Warming Center on East 16th Avenue, we suggested people, when that shelter was being shut down, that they go and use that campsite. And so some of the people up there have been there since February of 2023, which is kind of wild. But I don't have a whole lot to share right now that I can do with any brevity, but I'd like to read you what I wrote to city council and read to them right before this current sweep back on the 18th, when they were considering sweeping that camp behind Lucky's and 5 other camps. So this will all give you a little bit more background into me and what's going on right now. Hello, council. My name is Ben Colburn. You may not be familiar with me, but you are familiar with some of my work. Since early 2022, I've helped build and maintain multiple encampments for unhoused residents of Columbus, including Camp Shameless, Camp Shameless 2, and another camp in Clintonville, which is under threat of forced eviction later this month. I built that last campsite for myself and a few others when I became houseless for a second time in this city. The site allowed me some measure of stability so that I was able to re-enter housing. Some of the people at the site currently have been there since February of last year. I suggested they use the site back then because I realized, as an employee of the Warming Center on East 16th Avenue at the time, that the premature closing of warming centers that season would leave them with almost no options for surviving the rest of winter inside. It was very true. As I'm sure you're all aware, houselessness is at an all-time high in Columbus. At the same time, we're experiencing an affordable housing scarcity crisis The shelters and warming centers stay at capacity. Myself and other activists and service organizations are strapped, trying our best to aid the continued survival of folks not served by any of the current shelter options. That population of unsheltered homeless has been growing, and a recent statistic shows chronic homelessness grew 47% within Columbus over the last year. Chronic homelessness, for context, is 4 or more instances of homelessness, or in a span of time, or a year or more of unsheltered homelessness at one time, or marginal homelessness, I should say. So that it's just showing us that it's harder for people to get into housing. They're waiting more time. They're losing place after more and more. That's a massive increase. So anyways, what I'm doing here today is asking you to do everything in your power to not make this situation any worse. Spoiler alert, they did make it worse. Instead of spending a fortune in taxpayer funds sweeping camps, how about halting camp sweeps until Columbus, at the very least, has shelter which can accommodate as many people as needed? Instead of allowing the quote unquote homelessness advocacy liaison in the Department of Development, his name is Marcus Johnson, by the way, to use the city codes as a destructive force against the unhoused, perhaps allow housing first advocates and harm reduction teams to have space in developing relationships which result in housing. It's a funny thing, but if you ask a houseless person how to help them, they actually will tell you. And that's been proven time and time again. If you ask folks what they need, they will tell you. We're doing a real disservice to them by not meeting them where they are. We don't have enough varied kinds of housing. We don't have enough varied kinds of shelter. They're not shelters for couples and for people with pets, people that are actively using. Certainly not enough shelters for people that have severe mental health issues. And, of course, we used to call that asylums, but I think many people are rethinking the idea of we got to do something better than just jail or the street for people. Or what's becoming more common is trying to force people into addiction centers. So this is probably going to ramp up exponentially during the Trump years. He has talked about further criminalizing homelessness. He's talked about creating internment camp type scenarios for the houses outside of cities. He has talked about cracking down on drug users and all this nonsense that we know does not work from the war on drugs. It's a massive failure, and we need to start genuinely putting some of this evidence-based stuff into practice as best we can. And instead, this is going to be a very scary time, I think, for a lot of us that work in these fields. It's happening. Trump's taking office at the same time. We're going to see a lot of those ARPA dollars running out. So that's going to be rough. But anyway, that's all I got for right now. And thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks.
I'll stick around if you want to answer, or ask any questions.
Yeah, we'll go ahead, Kate, please.
Yeah. So, and I do want to acknowledge that Ben is a former commissioner on the Near East Side. So I'm really
rooting for you, Kate.
Really glad to be in the same forum with him today.
Likewise.
But something that you brought up, Ben, that I thought was really interesting was talking about this criminalization, right? So we've talked about how from the highest level right now, we have the Supreme Court case that has allowed for people to be able to be punished for being unhoused. And we've seen even in Newark that there's been a change. And so now there's a criminalization there, giving people very limited options, right? So we already had this perception that if you're unhoused, it's your problem, right? You are at fault. There's something wrong with you, right? Many people come from that perspective. And therefore you need to come to the place that we've designed because it's going to be the best place for you to fix your problem. Not acknowledging that many of these centers just don't really meet many people's needs, right? The pets that they have are their companions and maybe are their service animals, whether or not they have all the credentials for it or not, right? They have trauma that has happened while they're at centers from staff, from the people who have been paid to help them, or from other individuals who are there. The whole system is very traumatic. When we're talking about family centers, right, we're talking about children who are sometimes being sent out to extra spaces, churches or other places where they're spending the night, and then being essentially shipped back on a bus or something else to the main center. So they're waking up very early, they have very little sleep. And so many families just don't feel like they can enter that system and have any real luck. And having worked alongside in my long history of work, those systems often don't work. And not only do they not work, families often can't get through the housing process, even though that's what's often dangled to them as a carrot, if they enter into this really traumatic system and put their children through this every day. And so I think that that's really frustrating, because as we look at even what's happened with the development of things that have happened here on the Near East Side, the housing costs have gone up exponentially, right? And it's not always because of a lack of housing. I think that there is housing stock that is sitting vacant, that is being unused. We have not fully put into check our short-term rental agreements, which I think were basically written to support Airbnb. When you actually go and look at the language, our commission had put forward and came together with many other commissions, some language that we felt like would help kind of narrow down the parameters of what's allowed for short-term rentals. And it was a lot of there was a lack of there's another word I could use for this. There was a lack of strength from city council that they were willing to put themselves out there to get that passed, because they were worried of the outcomes that they would, the pushback that they would get from that. So, I think that this is this thing, is that we're moving into some new spaces over the next 4 years where we have to be braver, right? We are going to have to be more unified. We're going to have to stop talking about how fragmented we are. And we're going to have to get down and do the business that we all have been doing all this time as grassroots organizers and get the work done, right? Because day to day, that's what we've been doing. That's how the civil rights movement has happened. That's how we have the rights that we have been able to maintain. And that's how we're going to have to move forward, because the interactions of ensuring that people are safe, the interactions that we're going to be able to make sure that people are fed and get the access to healthcare and get the access to housing, is not going to necessarily happen just with expectations of government. It is going to have to happen through our collections of churches. It's going to have to happen with collections of civic organizations. It's going to have to happen with just neighbors, right? This is going to have to be ways that we decide on our own. We are going to solve this problem. And yes, we need to have more money for this, but true, yes, mutual aid, right? Because this collective work is just how we're going to have to get this done, because we cannot look for other people to solve this for us. We're going to have to solve it for ourselves, because we already know that they don't really want to solve this, right? When you look at those firefighters in California, what I see is chain gangs, because that's what that is. And when we know after slavery ended that that's what the uptick was individuals being put into internment camps and work camps and chain gangs, because that was a new way to make sure that free labor got done. That's what this is. You're looking at it on your TV screen. And so when we look at how we are potentially criminalizing people for being homeless, well, now you in a system that's for-profit prison systems, this is part of that chain, right? If we know that individuals can be petitioned to be able to help support those corporations who are already getting tax knockoffs from the city, and they're looking for cheap labor, what is the incentive for them to do anything different? It is all part of the same system. And I hate to say that, and that sounds super jaded, but I really believe that. And so I think that we have to start making hard decisions and find better competitive candidates and find ways to be able to help undo this machine that we're currently in, because we got to get inside of it and we got to start taking it apart and changing the tools that we're using with it, because this is just not working, right? We can do better, but we're going to have to collectively work on this together.
Thank you, Carrie. That's Kate. That's sort of where we're wanting to head this discussion tonight, is how do we, as a community, yes, we are journalists. We are to cover movements that are out there, but we're also very active in the community as well. The Near East area and the city in general have many organizations that are working on housing, some better than others. We're dealing with Columbus Housing Network right now with the Four Seasons City Farms, and they're going to build a 50 person units, 50 unit piece right on top of where Camp Shameless used to be. Boom, talk about Camp Shameless having a long-term impact on city policy. So active resistance does bring success, limited, yes, but does bring some kind of success to that process. Ali, I see you making comments on the seniors getting pushed into guardianships. I don't know if you wanted to describe that a little bit. I don't know you very well, so Carino, if you're wanting to speak a little bit more about that, please join us. And then, yes, so how do we see housing first? That very important subject, because we talk about the new administration coming in. It's a historical reality. You know, the architecture that's being built right now is for quote unquote luxury tenement houses. I call them tenement houses because they're going to be tenement houses in 20 years.
They will be. They will.
Yeah, they're all going to end up being tenement houses at one point. But they're called luxury houses now, and they're being charged, you know, over $2,000 for a unit in a neighborhood that is still in transition. So, you know, those are some subjects that we need to talk about seriously as an organization, as a group and a community of journalists. How do we cover these issues? How do we do that? Anyone have any other ideas of where we're heading on this discussion? Lan, you have Strong Towns in here. You're mentioning that organization. Any other ideas? Verbz, I don't see Verbz out here yet. So
I think the question also becomes just the money. I mean, you know, the community housing network, their project for 50 people is $20 million for 50 units. So it's just this way of thinking and who's controlling the money and not controlling the money, but really benefiting from it. And there's no economic development, no job workforce development as part of the project or anything. It's truly just warehousing and, you know, that as an industry. And that, as, you know, people know my feelings about even the improper use of the space, ignoring that there's a little simple street that they could engage, but they don't even want to engage the space. And that, to me, is the most frustrating part. And it really comes down to the city, because Community Housing Network, to them, that's not their responsibility, even though it's all part of their mission. So how do we, and they're getting $20 million from whatever, fake money. But that's part of the point. There can be a lot of fake money that can do better things, but not fake money in trade. And I thank you very much, Kate, that it is, and that's what I put the Strong Towns, is that churches have a lot of money and have a lot of space. They don't know how to use it also, okay? And, but I think it's also the point of a lot of people, yes, if you're working with it, yes, you're closing home and you're going to your own home, and at some point you know, it is a project. And so how do we now that the city has finally listened, and for the boarded up buildings, they are going to tax people, and supposedly how can we help our own neighborhoods accelerate that process in our own communities, where we can start. And I think that's some of the things that Strong Towns would talk about. How do you on your own, what can you do? What can we do on the street? And that can be, and I very consumed with this because I know, I looked up one person and they had like, I don't know, 5 pages of properties that were most of south of Maine, very much affecting the Near East Side. So how do we even teach people to think that that could be even a fun game? Wow, let's play it in a fun way. Great. These people, so we have, that's a challenge.
Yes. Sandy Bolton has a comment question.
Yeah, I liked the idea of, somebody's running. I forgot, I don't know who that person was because I was at a different place. But um maybe build it around this person who's running for office for city council or hope to
Well,
be.
they're in the running. It's not so much a running,
Right.
but it's an appointment process that Kate has now gone into the, I guess, second phase, and there's interviews that are coming up this week.
Yeah,
Monday,
I have mine on Monday. So I'm
Monday
Kate. Hi, Miss
and
Sandy.
Wednesday.
I'm Kate.
Monday and Wednesday. Are you inviting people to come to that, or is that something that's not? I don't know.
I I think it's a I think it so I was told it was a private session with the 8 council members, right? So we got to just to briefly tell you, Sandy, so we got an email, and in full transparency, um, I got a series of emails. One was for this past Monday to keep a tentative hold, and it was real tentative language, like city council could choose to do interviews if they wished with some or all. They weren't obligated to, but they could. So keep it on your calendar that they could go into executive session after the city council meeting. Okay.
Well, here's
That's
my
other-
idea. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So then the next thing was we'll keep the next Monday on, which okay. So then I got an email on Thursday that they were doing interviews with all individuals, and they felt very strongly that it should be in person. And so they gave us a Google Doc, like a form that said, what are you available for like a 20 or 30-minute interview with all 8 council members at the same time? And so I selected the times that I could make it around my work schedule. And I guess maybe everybody else is doing the same thing. So we're all scheduled either Monday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon. And if you couldn't make it, then you were going to be given questions to answer and send your responses back to city council. So I have mine on Monday. And so that is all I know for now. But I think it's a closed door executive session with the 8 members of city council who are currently seated.
And they're saying no votes Monday or Wednesday. They're going to make the decision in 2 weeks, within about 2-3 weeks. Sandy,
Yeah.
did that answer your question, or do you have other?
No, actually, I had a suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
I think that one of the ways to bring this to people's attention is to, working for a candidate's campaign. For instance, yours, if you don't make it this time, then actually run for City Hall another time, and get your name out there and have billboards with QR codes so anybody can look it up, or email, or a space so anybody buy that billboard or pass out papers, whatever, can easily access up-to-date information, and really bring it home to people. I mean, you guys have already said it. You could have a fire, and then what happens? Where are you going to live now? It's not as if you have a fire. I mean, in the past, you have a fire, you stay with some friends or family for a short while. Your insurance will pay for your accommodations until your house can be repaired or you can find another place to live. But now insurance, they're going to fight you tooth and nail. And even if they do give you some money, it's not going to be enough to afford a proper place. And then you'll be renting. And then, so anyway, just bring it home to people. A fire, if you're renting, you can be evicted anytime. Everybody knows this now. Your rates could go up, or you could be evicted, even if you're willing to pay for it. And then if you have a big healthcare bill. So I would say one of the ways to do this in Columbus is to have people running for city council on this platform of affordable housing for all, and of course healthcare and money out of politics, all those kind of things. I know it's a larger question, but I think once people realize, because to be honest, I have a couple houses. Why do I care? And I think we need to impress upon people that how important housing is. And it's our community members too. Kids are supposed to go to school when they know the house is going to be. So anyway, you get where I'm going. So I'll stop there. But I just think the way to get this out to people is through at least one billboard, QR codes telling people where they can find up-to-date information so that we can respond to any kind of false propaganda on this part. And I guess I'll leave it at that.
Thanks,
But thanks
Sandy.
for running.
Jamie, I see you, but Kate or Ben, do you have any response to that at all? Then Verbz has joined us. So Jamie, I'm gonna let you talk, and then Verbz will jump on real quick. But anybody response to what she said? Ben, I see you lit off.
Uh, yeah. So, um, uh, there actually move on to somebody else real fast and give me a second to think about my answer.
I got you. I
I
got
don't
you.
know what the plot there.
Kate,
I'm
yeah.
distracted.
Yeah. So
Right.
I think that we need to utilize the things that work, right? And so if it's a billboard that's going to get people's attention, that's a great solution. You know, in my neighborhood, you know what gets people excited is postcards because every elder loves mail. And so that is a way to get people engaged is postcards. But that is for an older generation, right? When you're talking about youth, then we're talking about the QR codes and we're talking about social media and a TikTok video. So like you just have to kind of probably have a multi-dimensional plan that's going to address different people's ways that they access technology and how they access their media, how they access information, and who are their trusted messengers, right? When we have this information, what looks trustworthy to them, right? Like when you see a billboard, its placement may make it more trustworthy, right? Like if I see a billboard in New Albany, that's not for me. That may not be where I want to get my information from. Like, but if it's on the overpass on Joyce Road, I might pay attention to it because it's closer to where I live and it may be more meaningful to me. So I think that we have to think about those things because all of that costs money. And we are all fiscally responsible individuals who know that the money that we have is hard earned because it's all of us regular people trying to pitch in for something. But I think that those can be part of a multifaceted approach towards how we get people engaged. Because at the end of the day, what are we actually trying to do? We're trying to create a movement, right? And we're really trying to create education also so that people reframe. For some, it's education. For others, it's engagement. It's getting people inspired to do more. So what does that campaign look like?
Thanks, Kate. Jamie, but Verbz, I just want to make sure first, Jamie. Verbz, you're working right now. Are you okay for a little bit? You okay to stay on?
I'm not working at work right now. I'm just chilling.
Okay, so you okay for a second? Let's get
Yeah.
Jamie get his point in, and then we'll get you on to you. Okay.
Okay, kind of very much in agreement with Kate. A multifaceted approach is what I would suggest, and what we're doing here is absolutely one of those things. And on the street and Confess is a great one, but I am very much strongly in favor of Facebook, and it's a matter of social media and getting as many friends as you can, and liking other people's posts more than what worrying about what you post, but listening to other people. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. And you were adamant about trying to listen to the Trumpsters as well as others. So I hear that voice that we need to start listening to folks that are in the community that we may not originally agree with, but then boom, we may have some common points at some point. I don't know if ending capitalism will ever be a Trump issue, but there might be something. Verbz, please, why don't you go forward with what you got for us, please?
Well,
And a song would be great too.
oh yeah, okay. Let's see what I can do at the end.
All right.
Yeah, so it's Verbz. I just started an organization. Well, it's called Here We Are LLC, and it's HEAR, we OUR, like ours. Here We Are LLC. It's a warming center, safe space, and just general kind of place to be on the Hilltop for folks mostly houseless, and we got usually at least 20 to 25 people at a time hanging out at any given moment, kind of circulating through. Some people stick around most of all the time, and then we've got kind of a rotating crew. It's been going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for about 3 weeks now. And I've managed to get together a couple of people that I trust to keep it going when I'm not there. And yeah, it's been pretty awesome. Like we've got food coming in most days. We've got some cots going out. We've got a tent in the back. We got a few heaters going. We got a shower. The washing machine just went down, but we had a washer and dryer going for a while. And yeah, so people can come in and have all kinds of like basic services and things taken care of as we're getting through the winter months, and then be there. It was formerly Fringe Public Health, which I ran the drop-in center for, and then they kind of cut out a few months ago, and I managed to get the lease back on the space that we had, which had been renovated to fit these needs specifically. And that's what I'm doing.
All right, thank you. Yeah, the concept of warming stations sort of came to my consciousness about just around the pandemic time, when everybody else was seeking shelter, and those that were houseless did not have shelter to seek for their safety in the pandemic. And so warming stations started coming around in Columbus. I know they probably have been evident and around for a while, and other work has been done before that. Housing Now has been a movement, a national movement, and this is a national crisis. We are not talking about solving this with the Columbus way. We're going to have to do it in a lot of in a connected, as we're seeing in some of the chat, that this is a connected reality. We have to be talking about the folks that are organizing in Cali have to be organizing with people in Ohio. They have to be organizing people, in Georgia, and all across the country. We need to be thinking together. How are we going to address this? Winnie has her hand up, and then we can get back with Ben if he's got his thought. He is off work, but he's at work, so he's probably getting interrupted a lot of times. So just let you know.
So
Winnie.
Verbz, where is this warming center, and what was the name of it again?
Yeah, she
It's
might
called-
be a good volunteer.
It's called Here We Are, HEARWEOUR. It's ours. We kind of represent that collective effort. We're all working together in the center to do this. It's at 2016 Sullivan Avenue,
26.
right on the block.
Is that in the My Project USA building?
No.
Because
Well,
they just opened the warming center there also, sponsored by
No.
the county, I think.
No, this is in the in between Lechner and Wrexham, the building with the barber shop.
Yeah, I don't know.
On Sullivan.
So
Yeah, this is a
2016
spot that
Sullivan, and you're open 24 hours a day, and it's called Here We Are, OUR.
Yeah, it's in the chat. It's here, HEAR.
Oh, Here We Are. Okay, all right.
2016
All right.
Sullivan. Yeah.
So who's funding this?
Right now we are not funded. It's all come out of my pocket, really. I've got a few donations from some people. Yeah, it's a space I rent. So we're looking for donations at all times. I've got a Venmo. It's ours, you heard, like OURSYAHEARD, or at ours, you heard.
Yeah, I can't catch any of these things you're saying.
I'll put it in the chat or something like that. Yeah, but
you get done first.
so yeah, and we're right in the middle of the Hilltop on the block. And taking care of the people there.
Yeah, further out west at My Project USA, they have a center, and it's being managed by, I think, a guy named Matthew, who is with Homes on the Hill. And but I don't think it's 24 hours. I think it's at night, because they have kids in there in the day, and then that's the problem with all the warming centers. like if they're at rec centers, they can be there in the day and then they kick them out. And then if it's an overnight one, they can be there overnight and then they kick them out. So I was talking with Martina today. She was one of the original organizers of Camp Shameless. And she is now has a paid position, I think, with Mount Carmel and working at a hotel up somewhere north, like near Morse Road or something. And she says it has about 40 people. And she says that they give them 2 granola bars, like in the morning, and they have to leave. And I think they have to leave. No, I think they can stay, and they can also have pets, and they can also be in couples. But all they give them is 2 granola bars, and then it's up to them to go out and find food for the day. So she's been cooking food for them. She came over, and we gave her a lot of food that we get to feed. For Here Park, we get it from the food bank, but she needs. It would be helpful if she had a big roasting pan, the kind that churches have. They could like put a big turkey in and plug it in. It's like a little oven kind of deal. And then she could make big casseroles for 40 people. She could also use a percolator that you plug in, a coffee urn that would make about 40 cups of coffee in a percolator, and food donations. So people can keep that in mind. And also in Franklinton at the Buddhist Center last year and this year, we're having a clothing and sleeping bag and drive, and also hand warmers, granola bars, hats, mittens. And we were donating them to St. John's Episcopal because they have meals for the homeless 3 times a week, once on Sundays at Central and West Broad, and then in their church on Friday and Saturday evenings. And so if people want to get in your closets and get out your old sleeping bags and camping equipment that you don't use, or want to go to the thrift store, or you have extra hats, winter clothes, and if you could purchase granola bars and hand warmers, we're making little packets in Ziploc bags so that when you drive past beggars with the cardboard signs, you can put a $1 bill in there with granola bars and a hand warmer, and they're so happy and grateful. It's very heartwarming.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's many churches, many organizations that are doing that kind of work, and Winnie is one that we know that we can trust that it's going to work. So extend that gratitude to that. Ben, have you had a chance to reflect on those questions?
Yeah, sorry, got my brain together here. I had to take a couple of notes because it's been a wild one. So, I mean, first off, I want to say to Verbz, keep up the good work, man. Really appreciate that. That's how Camp Shameless started. Like, we self-funded that as a warming center in Mark and my church, Old First Presbyterian in Old Town East. So that's how that whole project started. I've worked at the warming centers that one was volunteer, activist run, but I've worked for, taking CSB money, Community Shelter Board money, for the last couple of years, working at the warming centers in different capacities. And I want to say also that it's an ongoing thing that there's funding for it, but not enough to do it right. They keep putting people in to just decrepit hotels. I remember last year, the hotel up north, most likely the one you're talking about, there's one off of 161, but the one up Morrison Sinclair, America's Best Value Inn, the city shut that mostly down due to COVID.
It was burned out originally, and then it became, yeah.
Yeah, it was a mess. The guy complained last year to Six on Your Side, got him to put him in another hotel. We had numerous complaints from the other hotels, many of which they're using again, like Loyalty Inn, Columbus Grand, same spots again and again. It's good that they're getting people inside during the coldest weather, but in many ways, this is just warehousing them and giving them the bare minimum to survive. Like, sometimes not even that. It's true. Like, they'll give a granola bar They'll give, a water granola bar pack of chips to make the whole day. They'll spend like $1, $2 on a meal. It's basically like jail food. I don't think they even have it that bad in jail sometimes. And it's just, I have it on good authority that Community Shelter Board is also getting rather upset because there's overflow at shelters like Van Buren, which people don't want to go to. There's beds there, but there's such a demand for people to go in the hotels. And of course, because you have more autonomy at the hotels, you don't have to deal with all these, as Kate's saying, traumatic nonsense that you have to deal with at shelters. And there's a lot of it. There's some real horror stories, and I've heard some, I've seen some, I've witnessed some things. So the doing this kind of work is basically harm reduction, and harm reduction is like not pretty a lot of the time. But it's extremely important to keep finding that human element and making that the centerpiece, like the compassionate humanity and that connection. That's what so many people just desperately need. Is they need not just a place to stay, but they need help with stability, like emotional stability, community support, connection to resources, all these things. And it just starts by being nice to people.
Reconnection is so important.
Exactly. And it's actually like way cheaper to do the compassionate thing and keep people in housing instead of evicting them. Franklin County's #1 in evictions last year. We beat, like, I think Cincinnati had like 6,000. Cleveland had 13 some thousand. We had 25,000 plus. It's so much cheaper to keep people in housing in the long run. It's so much better for everybody. For everybody, is like find ways to get people in housing. That's what housing first means. But you need those wraparound services once they're in housing, because so many people will just end up, they're mismatched with where they are, and they lose that housing, and they end up in the cycle again. And then it leads to like chronic homeless issues. It's not, the problem is not them. The problem is we don't know how to engage with them well and to meet them where they are. And that's why so much of this keeps happening, and so much of it is a mess. And just seeing it from the ground floor. I've never stayed in a shelter. I've stayed in homeless camps, but I never went to the shelter because I didn't want to deal with it. But it's so much cheaper to keep people in housing or get people in housing than it is to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, which Columbus does each year, to sweep homeless camps. And that mostly just moves people up the road. That does nothing. We're just continuously and aggressively attacking visible homelessness and symptoms of a much larger problem of our vicious, like, oligarchy that we have now. We need to deal with the heart of it, and you can really tell a lot about a society, but how it treats the most vulnerable people. And people in LA is burning, and LA is still conducting homeless camp sweeps, like in the middle of this. And this is wild. Like, this is not how it's supposed to be. Like, we have to take direct action somehow to just inject humanity, inject some kind of compassion back into the world. Like, any small thing you can do throughout the day, it'll help keep you sane. I promise. Thank you.
Brian Curtis mentioned statistically 43232 was the highest zip code of evictions in the past, and 4305, 43205, 6, 7, those are right up there as well. There's he in the chat, he mentioned those. Brian, did you want to speak a little bit more of that, or your research on that side? So, this is not just a regional or a zone issue. This is a citywide concern. They're having camps and other housing concerns all across this county. This county, during the pandemic, was one of the highest eviction rated areas in the state. and that's not something to be proud of. I mean, we need to figure out how to respond to concerns of late pay because they don't have the ability to pay, other issues that are compounding why they can't pay. There's a whole lot of concerns out there. Verbz, you mentioned the good intentions, and that got a little bit of rile up a little bit. What is your framework for your folks, your community that you're working with? You mentioned quote unquote good intentions, but where are you heading with that one? What's your
No. There's something. Based off something I saw earlier in the chat that said
Yeah.
something about that, and I didn't understand what it meant. So,
Okay.
what I was saying is that like we do the meeting people where they are thing. You know what I mean? Like we're based on harm reduction principles, and so we meet people where they're at and go with that. And like you know what I'm saying, we're not out there trying to preach to anybody about any way to live or anything. You know what I'm saying, anything like that, apart from like you know what I'm saying, working with each other as opposed to like, I mean, one of the issues we have a lot in the center is like people stealing each other's shit. And like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, listen, you know what I mean? Like you're here punching at each other next to you, you know what I'm saying? Like there's people, you know what I'm saying, elsewhere that, you know what I mean, you should be aiming your aggression at, like, as opposed to like, you know what I'm saying, each other, you know what I mean? Like we've got issues when we're getting hit from above and like, and we're taking it out on each other instead of organizing and putting it back, you know what I'm saying, to some way more productive.
Well, Suzanne did set this up for 7 to 8 today, and we're at 8 now. I don't know if we have more to talk about. It is something we need to do. This housing first. Leave the concern behind, or not the concern so much as get active. We need to get active. We can't go and just constantly thinking, oh my Lord, we can't get any more done, we can't do anything. We as a community can do things. We have power, we have structure, we have assets that we need to definitely respond to conditions where we find them. So again, thank you, Verbz, Ben, and Kate for sure. Good luck this week, Kate, on don't lose your voice. Be good and
thank
strong.
you.
Anybody else? Tekla, I see your kitty. Hi, kitty, 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 kitty.
Yeah, if you
Jamie,
will. Just since we're kind of done with the other subject, I just thought I'd mention that Columbus Community Bill of Rights is still alive and well. And we, of course, we ran into some issues with home rule and state preemption. So we're considering a referendum or ballot initiative for to get rid of this home rule or mitigate it. And so I just wanted everybody to be aware that that's what we're working on. But
Actually, if I could say something about that too, Jamie. If anyone is, we're actually really interested in working with people who if you have had one of your groups or groups that you know of or issues you have who have been preempted, like plastic bags or something like that, if you are aware of those kinds of state preemptions on local rights or interest, you can get hold of me or Jamie, or say something now and I'll get hold of you. And I wonder if, I come to think of it, I wonder how much the homeless issues has to do with preemptions. Maybe nothing at all, but I'm wondering. But that's a bigger topic. I won't go into it right now. But if you've been working with people or if you've been working with an issue that the state keeps interfering with and preempts our local desires, say something to me in the chat or here or you get hold of me, however you want to do it. I'll put my email address there. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Bob, please. Bob Ring.
I'm certain there is at least one school district in Ohio that does not want to have to be required to have release time for religious education off property.
I think all students should be engaged with Quakerism. I'm sorry. I think they ought to be.
That's not why I brought it up, but I am just thinking, I'm sure there's at least one school district in Ohio that doesn't like that new rule.
Oh, there's a whole lot of them. There's a whole lot of them. The Columbus City Schools is a perfect example. They've resisted as much as they can at this point. You know, with the Supreme Court making one decision, then you sort of get lost out on that. Sort of with the city council and the city rule, the attorneys talking about the advanced guns that are out on the streets. They've tried to stop that, but they can't because of the home room issue. The home rule issue does have come into play of how the GOP used to be all about uh, uh, local control, and now they're realizing they don't have local control in a lot of the urban areas. So now they're have changed their ways of thinking and are now talking about state rule and national rule and so there you go.
Well, I would say they played that card, but they weren't sincere ever.
Yeah.
Well, so I just wanted to bring up one thing. I find it really interesting when we think about, just as a separate topic, you know, we're looking at states saying that they want to dissolve. So we're hearing nationally that they want to dissolve the Department of Education. Then there are some states that have also opted to go this route. So then what does it become? Hyper local rule for education, right? And how will that work out? When we know that that has sometimes supported racist and you know, segregation and a lot of other issues in our history. But I find it interesting that for the state of Ohio, that it caused a lot of commotion that the ODE became ODEW. And was this a preemptive work from you know, our governor to try to sort of say, well, it's the Department of Education, but there's also the workforce piece, and you wouldn't want to throw away the workforce piece as a preemptive move to try to keep that education department whole for our state in a play at a time. Maybe he was being predictive. I'm not sure. I don't know. But, you know, I was pretty skeptical of that move. But now that I'm seeing that there are other states wholesale trying to remove their departments of education, was that a preemptive move on his part or not? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, the wait and see reality. I don't know about wait and see, but we will see. I think we need to get active on how we want to project our society, the society that we envision, and get locally involved in a global sense. Charlotte, please.
Preemption again is about taking away home rule or local people's right to protect their air, water, and soil and rights and so forth. So to part of the point is, yes, there would be something in there too that says that it could not take away rights, like, you know, more than national rights. So like, no, you can't reinstitute slavery. No, for instance. But as far as the state, okay, what is it? It's all about corruption and the state or whoever taking authority. For instance, they to my mind they are ignoring the Ohio Supreme Court when they took so much authority away from the state school board and put it under the governor's office. And that's what they wanted. They wanted more power. And that was not, you know, the people, it's a long time ago now, but yeah, that was not the intent. They didn't want they wanted the elected state school board to have more authority. So also now you probably are aware of, and again, this isn't so much preemption, but it's still, whether it's the vouchers at the state level or as we're talking about the the vouchers at the state level are stripping money away from public education. And so then they're going to talk about and leaving the most expensive people in public education, because who's getting the vouchers? Most of them were already in private schools and could afford to be there. So they're leaving the most expensive students in public schools, and then they're going to attack public schools for not doing well enough. And then, so it's all, how can people get money? How can some people get private benefit and profits from public taxpayers without accountability? Now, that's not exactly preemption, but okay, I'm off on a rant. Sorry.
Thanks, Charlotte. Bill probably has a 1-2 punch on that one. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to point out that preemption, there are different kinds. There's ceiling preemption and floor preemption. And so when the state comes along and does something that says, no, local, you have no say on, you can't pass any laws on oil and gas regulations, on minimum wage, on plastic bags, on this and that,
on housing people, on housing people.
Rent control and all that. That's a ceiling preemption, and that's what we're against. But there are some preemptions that are good where they set minimum standards that need to be abided by. But then the idea is that locally you should be able to, if you would like to expand on those. And so that's the difference. That's really what we're talking about, that there are some rights and there are some standards that have to be met. And that sets a floor when it comes to, you can look at many examples but of that. But then if a community decides to go beyond that, like maybe a minimum wage is a certain level, and this local community says, no, we think that for our community, it needs to be higher than it is. So that's really what we're talking about there. It isn't to say that we went local for 100% home rule on everything, or 100% that local decides everything, but local could expand upon rights that are already there and make it even better than it is. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, thank you. And we'd love Seaboard on and to develop that thought a little bit more as you guys get your work going down. So
yeah,
we'll look forward to having more details on that whole approach, which I think is dynamic and can have some impact if you finally get your city council to let you get on the ballot.
Yeah.
But anyways, I've gone through
We'll
that.
need Kate for that.
I know. I've been through that as well, so I understand. But we'll have Kate on the boards on council, so we'll have an insight. So there we go. So yeah, we're getting to a point that we're probably needing to start closing down a little bit. The relationship of housing, healthcare is so related to the employment of a person. And when we start seeing areas that have large unemployment pockets, 43232 is a particular example because that was one of the highest eviction, but also the highest unemployment rates in Franklin County. 43207, I worked in there since way back when. And 43205 is another one. Now, there's some areas, pockets, 43211. Those zip codes are hurting with employment possibilities and the system of relating one's stature with what they do it has been an ongoing discussion. But now it's becoming more of a reality of that if you don't work, you don't have healthcare. If you don't work, you don't have housing. If you don't work, there's a lot of characteristics of how people measure humanity in this society with jobs. And if they can't provide jobs that are going to be living wages, what is it, $25 an hour full time to even make a minimum payment to housing so you're not going to 50% of your income? This is ludicrous. This is not what that's not the Columbus way. Sorry, it's not the Columbus way. And we need to alter that. And I would really start using that term Columbus way in a way that isn't what they want it to be used as. They always talk about the Columbus way, business first, collaboration with elected officials, Brian did finally jump back on it. So 43232 is the Eastland area, yes. It's a shell of what it was. Yes, that's true. And actually, the city has plans for that area. Who knows what it's going to be, um, and whether that's going to address some of the housing issues that are going on out that way, education, healthcare. That's a whole plot of land that, my vision, I see the terror, horror of what's going on in LA in this week, but I also see the potential for great community involvement and redeveloping that area, what it could be. All the churches, all the community centers, rec centers were burned down. I mean, that's close to my heart. Houses, of course, were burnt, but places of community, businesses that we were saying for decades, they were the place where people would go to be community, that third space that people really are seeking. Speaking of, we have a third space this Saturday. Come on out. A jazz musician coming down from Cleveland to Old First Presbyterian, 11:01, 12 o'clock. Or no, 2 o'clock, my bad, 2 o'clock. He's going to be playing, and then we'll have a discussion on some other things that are coming up on 2025 in relation to the birth of one of the great Americans, Martin Luther King Jr., so the Reverend Doctor. So again, yeah. Who was saying that? Oh yeah, Kate, with the Beatty, yeah, Beatty, that was a whole other thing. They were reconstructing the place, and the contractor left some chemicals in a fire dumpster, or not in a trash dumpster, and it started a fire, and it's burnt down Beatty Rec Center, one of our 29 rec centers in town. So we already had an LA experience in the Near East Side with burning down of a center. Thanks, Kate, for bringing that back up. Yeah. Anybody else have any last moments of? We are going to continue these conversations. Today is our first day, our first salon. Next month, we're probably going to have a Black World event, part of our salon. We've decided to go the next 3 months, January, February, March, at least, maybe April, online, and then get back in person once the weather breaks again. So again, thank you. And Kate, thank you for stepping up and doing your thing. I did hear Near East Area Commission finally joined the South Side Area Commission with getting a youth on the commission. Finally. So that's great. I heard her voice today. Hopefully she's a great contribution and has many things to come forward. And yeah, Brian and Ben, thanks again, and get home safe. Verbz, I don't know how you're doing it, but 24/7 is a heck of a lot of work. Keep it up, and get away when you can. Keep that self together. Keep that self-care together. And you got a song for us? As we leave out, you got a song for us? Come on. I know you do. I won't put you on the spot, but I know you have a song. I know you do. Thanks again. Suzanne, do you have any last moments, announcements? Oh, Verbz, go ahead if you're ready.
No, I don't have any music. I'm not at the house.
Okay. All right.
I don't have any of my stuff.
Yeah. No, I've really appreciated your work over the years. So we need to probably involve you in some kind of public event where you can expose some of the young folks to your music as well. So, Winnie, you got one of the last words here, and then we'll probably sign out after Suzanne gives us our marching orders.
Bob was just reminding us that Verbz has a song that we liked a lot that I don't know that you can really say on Zoom.
Well, if we turn off the recording, we might be able to do all right.
I don't know. It's not very positive, but
Hey.
I think he's gone now. Is he gone?
No, he's right there. But Winnie, you're trying to get on, but now you're saying you can't talk. You got to push the button. Push your button. Steven, who might have put her on mute, permanent mute? Somebody put her on mute. I don't have the control, so I don't know. Suzanne, you can't. Sorry. Anybody good? We had someone in from Illinois on here. I saw him announce that he was here. Guess what? We got someone even farther away on. Our president is way over in Thailand. He's got housing over there because he married somebody. You know that sometimes you got to do that type of thing. You know, you get yourself in relationships so you find a house too. So no, I'm teasing. There is love in there too. So, Tekla and Miss
Lynn,
Smith, you guys as elder statesmen, do you want to kick us out on any
Lynn's,
good dates?
Lynn's hand is up.
Yeah, Lynn.
One Simply Living is doing on January 26th at Studio 35, showing the film We Are Guardians. And so please check it out. And also looking for suggestions of videos that you know, not videos, but films, documentaries that you'd like to be shown. Please let Simply Living know, because we're trying to take them to not just Studio 35, but to other places. And also looking for, but I'm also very curious if Tekla has an update if there is any updates to share. I know they were on her husband's trial. I think she's on mute.
I think she shook her head, said no updates, but
okay, thank you.
He will have a panel parole board hearing on January 30th.
Oh, that is an update.
So if anybody writes a letter for him, it helps a lot. And I don't have the address of the petition.
If you can send that to Suzanne, she'll send that out in the report afterwards, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that good, Lynn? Now, Winnie, are you able to speak now? No, somehow she got muted.
She wrote in the chat about is Verbz there now, and then Sandy wrote, I have extra sheets, blankets, and towels. Could Winnie or Verbz use them? So maybe Winnie's trying to answer something to do with that.
Yeah, so Verbz will use whatever you got them, I'm sure. So I would say go to that address and drop it off.
Oh, actually, I have another announcement.
Please.
ComFest is having an event and probably has been very slow in telling any organizations that this is happening, but it is on Saturday, January 25th. It will be at the Seventh Sun, and it's truly about organizations having conversations with ComFest organizers about some ways to expand on some things, improve some things, ideas, and that type of stuff. So if people have any more questions, and hopefully they will get an update. I'm not sure if the site is updated, but it is, it is the 26th. It's Sunday the 26th, and it will go from, let me give you the real times. Because it will be a party after there's a conversation. It goes from 12 to 6. And so from like 12 to 3 is networking and that type of conversation types of things. And then the party is at 3 to 6. So please, and it truly is kind of not their annual meeting, but truly trying to, we did one last year and it was kind of nice. People came out for it and there was nice conversations. And that's what it is why, so specifically, this is even really more organizational oriented. Okay.
Where is that again?
It's going to be at Seventh Sun.
Seventh Sun on 4th Avenue.
Yeah. So, for example, one thing.
4th Street, near 4th Avenue.
Yeah. So, and just real simple, one thing for Simply Living is we want to change our booth to be a little bit larger and just be a little chat area. Okay. And have organizations come down and electrify Columbus, sit down and have a couple hours just sitting there with a sign, let's talk electric, those types of things, and trying one thing to bring some of that back to ComFest. So please, if people have questions about it, just, give me a call. But that is, like I said, thank you. January 20th. Yes. Hopefully they will get some stuff out and even maybe perhaps get something on GRN. Okay. I don't know how much they want to publicize, but that's always ComFest's issue. They hate to tell people what's going on.
Well, it is sort of the same time as the annual early days of ComFest. So that might, is this a new replacement of what they used to do at some
Oh
other
no,
place?
they still got the annual meeting in May, but they
Okay.
really wanted to do this as a way to honestly wake people up about okay, it's Confest and start thinking about it. But also, this is the time that if you want something to be changed at Confest, this
Mhm.
is the time to make it. Okay, and that could be a variety of things. Right now, they have not been selling wine, and you know why? Because the nonprofits that were
Because
selling the
Columbus Free
wine.
Press was doing it.
Yeah. So actually, if that's something that entities want to be,
Yeah.
let's bring it back to conversation to, for Convest to do it. Okay. I think
Yeah.
that's really one that should really kind of come up. So if there, and that's an area that a collaboration of organizations, and I totally understand that, why it stopped because it was falling on on too few people. So, but so hopefully, so yeah, so please come on out or call me and we'll have conversations.
Thank you. And yeah, please come out on the 18th, before the 25th, 26th, for the MLK events. One at Old First at 2 o'clock with the jazz and communication. Similar kind of thing. We're doing community conversation and trying to get to know what's going on with 2025. So we do have a big year ahead of us. Hopefully it's one where we see much organization and much progress instead of stepping back. As the Poor People's Campaign says, uh, never one step back, never one step back. So let's not go backwards. Steve Caruso, you got Monday announcement or anything else, please?
Zoom, it's planned, but I don't know. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I probably still covering post-election stuff and I haven't heard boo from Harvey, but we're going through the whole year. We got funded through that and hopefully that helps the free press out too. Winnie, you have your hand up. Can you unmute yet? You still haven't, you don't, turn it. Yeah, there's no way, there's no blocking on the microphone, so it's not here. It's you. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. There's got to be a button somewhere on the app on your phone or something, but yeah.
She's tapping it 3, 4 times. Maybe that's why you tapped it 3 times. It's going to be off on off.
Volume control.
You
you
were
know
out
sign
there
language?
Can you do sign language for us?
Can you put it in the chat, Winnie?
Yeah, that.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
She already has put in that she has extra sheets and stuff that she might want to give to Verbs, but that's something she probably has something else she wants to speak.
That was me, so.
Well, you and her both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, anytime, please get over to Verb's operation over there, and that's the most up and coming, the most current, the newest operation that we've got. Ben has other realities. There's some folks, again, long-standing camps in town that are here to serve, as well as many others that are out there that are proving that when we come together, we can address issues. Now, camps are not the end of all end. It's what it is a safety concern, and we need to really understand that. What they're really asking for is an opportunity to be part of the community, basically. Suzanne, you had your hand up.
Winnie wants to know if Verbs is at the center now because her and Gary want to come over. And I don't see, he's kind of walked away. So I don't know if he's there right now.
I think you said earlier he was at the house.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not working right now. He's at wherever he's at the house also. I would say maybe tomorrow. Try to figure it out tomorrow, maybe.
Does he have a phone number that we can call to contact him or so before we go there?
I have a phone number for him that I was calling him on today. I don't know if he wants me to give that out. It's probably his personal number.
I can get it from Winnie or from you separately
Yeah,
then.
just DM each other. DM. That's that. I'm a youngster now. I can DM people now. Yeah. Steven, you got your hand up still. Do you want it up or no?
Yeah, I was thinking the Sip Blossom folks would be great to have at Confest, a little competition for the beer booth. So they have infused drinks. So that's all I had to say.
Sip Blossom. I don't know if Sip Blossom. I don't know Sip Blossom. What is that?
Yeah, we had the salon, woman was serving hemp infused drinks.
Oh, yeah.
Linda-
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I know
All
her.
right, very good.
Thank you. I
I'll
know
let
her.
you go.
Yes. That'd be great to have her there. I don't know if I don't know if Confest is going the CBD route or not. I don't know.
Oh, they're certainly trying to figure out how to.
Yeah, I bet
Yep.
they are. With the new rules and new regulations. Yeah. Ben, you gotta get home. Take care. We'll see you soon. Everybody, thank you again for tonight. Again, we'll be back February, the second Saturday of February with a discussion on the Black world and the status and condition of that. The diaspora and all, liberation and all. We need to be speaking about the oppression and liberation of the Black world. So we'll do our annual salon there, and look forward to everybody being back. And we'll for sure get Winnie off permanent mute. Good night. Oh, he's let's see, coming up. We got somebody's sharing. Is this Steven? Oh yeah,
This
Steve.
is Harvey's next call, I think.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, if you ever want on Mondays, these are very dynamic. It's nationwide conversations with people. Harvey is Harvey. Harvey's Harvey. He is what he is. And but he has some good folks on. He has linked up with the PDA. So if you have little struggles with PDA, then you may have some political conference with the PDA folks, but that's who he's been able to link up with, and they've been able to get him some money for what he likes doing. So, hey, he's always been very resourceful in that route. So he always kicks a little bit over to us. So we want him to be as successful as he can. And I see Sandy and Stephen and I are usually on those pretty regularly. If anybody else wants to jump on those, there, I think 5 o'clock usually our time.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it's fascinating.
Yeah,
so it's completely up to date, fascinating, interactive. I mean, you might want to check it out if you haven't already. It's just really you won't regret it.
And Brian's saying that our second Saturday will be February 8th. Thank you, Brian. You're keeping us on task. He and I were at my wife Yoshie were at a thing talking about reimagining Columbus just at the Metropolitan Museum of Art yesterday, and they're coming close to the end of the deliberation on what they're going to do when we kicked the old man with his skirt off the city council steps. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with him, but they've pretty much said he's not coming back. So the guy in the dress is not coming back. But they are thinking about other ways. And so that discussion that we were at the museum yesterday, day before, forget exactly, but it made me even rethink those whole steps on Broad Street side could be leveled out, no steps, and just from front and Broad leveled out on the front of City Council or City Hall, no steps. And a whole new plaza. It made me think whole different ways of way we could address what a momental celebration of what Columbus is. Not Columbus, the lost one, but Columbus, Ohio. Look forward to those. They're going to start looking. They have some designs coming out, but the architects are still in the process of figuring that thing out too. So I think wherever I go, Brian, I think has my location spot on it. So he always shows up wherever I'm going to be, or I think I have a location spot for him. And he always shows up where I'm at, or I show up wherever he's at. It's amazing and it's beautiful. I love seeing him there. So that's great. Thank you, everybody. And we're going to probably sign off. Again, be careful, be safe. The snows are beautiful, but they are slippery, so be careful. We don't need anybody falling and cracking themselves. So be safe. And Pete, you don't know nothing about snow. I know. Anything from the press to shut down the salon? How are we doing as a board? We're doing okay?
Pete, you want to say anything?
Sorry, I had to take my audio off. I couldn't find the button.
Yeah.
I'm not in Australia. I'm in Thailand.
Thailand. I said Thailand. Yeah.
Somebody said Australia.
Yeah, no.
I thought. Anyway, what was the question?
Just as the president.
You were asking about the board, I think.
Yeah. How are we doing as a board? How are we going as your minds? We're moving to a whole new year.
Well, my update would be that I think that the Free Press, I've been lobbying for a long time to do better with social media, to be able to get our articles and information out automatically, so it's not such a manual process. And having a lot of trouble getting that accomplished. I'm also concerned that we don't really know who's reading our stuff and who's following us and how effective we are. And I think there's ways that we could be able to evaluate that too. And I've been pressing for that on the board, but also working with Suzanne and Rob and Steve and to some extent John Lasker. So I guess that's my report.
Yeah, we got to continue to evolve as media evolves. And so we've adopted podcasts over the years. We've adopted radio. We've gone online. We've done Facebook. We're doing YouTube. We got these salons. We do need to continue to grow in understanding of where the technology is leading journalism and how to best do that. So yes, thank you for that push and
we also have WGRN 91.9 on the
Radio
FM
station.
dial.
That's what I said.
In most of Central Ohio. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where is that Tim at anyway? Thanks, Jamie.
It's in your
Pete,
car. It's on your car.
It's on your car. Yeah. 92.3 is it? I'm not don't get me thinking. There's WGRN and WCRS, so we have both low levels, and we're working on it. And so those all came out of the brain farts that we've had in the past, and we're moving forward. We're moving forward and adapting as we can. So yes, anybody that has skills in that route of how to do social media, how to do communication with people and the modern technologies. The TikTok is going out of business evidently in about 2 weeks, maybe. I don't know how they're going to get around that one, but there's about 1 billion people that love TikTok, so I don't think that's going out of business anytime soon. It may be the U.S. will just lose out on that. So Stephen's sharing a few more stuff here. Ohio Pro Board, yeah, there we go. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so if you're wanting to be a part of this Tekla's husband and his current struggle to get the parole board to listen to Willie's story, and this is a petition. So if you'd like to jump on that, please get on there, change.org. Ohio Pro Board, please release Willie Livewell. Thank you, Stephen. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say to Pete about you might want to look into Google Analytics and see if you can get into that minefield out there. Google Analytics. and check that out if you got time. I can't hear you, you're muted still, so.
Yeah, we have talked about Google Analytics with Rob and Michael and some other people. But nobody has pointed out to me, and I can't find it, with respect to just the Columbus Free Press or the freepress.org, to be able to use the published date as a selection criteria. So until you can get the data by the date that you published it, it's just a bunch of shit that you got to sift through to make any sense of it. So that's really would be my goal, is to find a way to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Brian? Hello?
Right. Yes. All right.
How you doing,
All
sir?
right. Good. Great. Yes. It's a calm before the storm in 9 days.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to DC? Speaking of, anybody going to DC? There is a protest on DC on the 20th. There's also stuff down at State House at
yeah, there
12.
is.
State House at 12.
Yeah.
Wanting to be part of that. So yeah, 9 days or no, 9 days. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It'll be the worst day in American history.
Oh man. No, I think there's been other days worse than that, but it may set off worse days. That's true. But there have been definitely worse days in American history. We can count them off our fingers probably. But yeah, it could set off a whole wave of negativity and just
yeah, absolutely.
and in particular
there'll be that big red wave in Columbus that night. I mean, scarlet and gray wave, but yeah.
So we should wear everything Michigan that day and just stop the gray. That's
who we all should root for.
What's that? Oh, yeah, there you go. Oh, you going for Notre Dame? Come on now. You can't be just so anti-Buckeye that you got to go for Notre Dame too.
Well, only on WCRS.